You think you've been betrayed? Try standing in your kitchen, watching your own wife smile as she sets your passport on fire, then calmly tells you to stay home and watch the kids because she's off to Puerto Vallarta with her gym trainer. Yeah, that actually happened to me. She looked me dead in the eye and called me a failure. Said I was a lousy husband who'd never make anything of himself. What she didn't realize, what nobody knew yet, was that just 3 days earlier, I'd closed a deal that added $108 million to my name. She thought she was walking away from some sad, washed-up guy. What she didn't realize is she'd just lit the fuse on something way bigger than she could handle. Name's Logan Reed, by the way. I'm 44 now, and up until about 4 months ago, I really thought I had life pretty well figured out. I had a stunning wife, 2 great kids, and a tech startup that was finally starting to make real waves. What I didn't know was that while I was busy planning our next family getaway, she was quietly preparing her own exit plan. Everything flipped on its head that Thursday morning. We were in the kitchen of our place in San Antonio, Texas. I was still in my pajamas, half awake, just trying to get a cup of coffee going. Then I heard that unmistakable flick of a match. I turned around, and there she was, Alyssa, holding my passport over the open flame on the gas stove. The cover was already curling, smoke rising. "What in the world are you doing?" I shouted, running over. She took a step back, gave me this chilling smile, and just stood there watching it burn. "Solving a problem," she said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Alyssa, that's my passport. I need that for my Berlin trip next week," I told her, still trying to process what I was seeing. She let out this laugh, cold, dismissive, the kind that made the hairs on my neck stand up. "You're not going anywhere, Logan," she said. "Stay here with the kids." That's what a supportive husband does when his wife needs some time away. I stared into the sink as the last blackened pieces of my passport dropped in. My thoughts were racing. Time away? What kind of break needs me to lose my ability to leave the country? "I'm going to Puerto Vallarta with Jared," she said, flipping her hair like she was announcing some spa weekend. Jared. That name hit me like a brick. Jared Castillo, the personal trainer she'd been working with at the gym. The guy I always got a weird vibe from but ignored because, well, I trusted her. "You're taking a vacation with your trainer?" I asked, trying not to completely lose it. "No," she snapped. "I'm going on a trip with someone who actually sees me, who actually wants to be with me. Not a guy glued to his laptop 24/7, forgetting he even has a wife." Right then, the kids came running in. Our daughter, Chloe, she's 10, stood there looking back and forth between us, confused and scared. Max, just 6, clung to my leg. "Daddy, what's that smell?" he asked, his nose wrinkled. "Mommy was just cooking something," I said quickly, trying to defuse the moment. I shot Alyssa a look, silently begging her to pull it together for the kids. She knelt down, kissed their foreheads, and said sweetly, "Mommy's going on a little vacation, babies. Daddy's gonna take care of everything." Then she walked off to pack like nothing had happened. I stood there holding both kids, looking down at what was left of my passport in the sink. And all I could think was, she has no idea. She didn't have a clue that just 3 days earlier, I'd signed the biggest deal of my life. My company, Flowgrid, had just been acquired by a major player for $108 million. The signed papers were sitting in my home office, ready to surprise her. Looks like the surprise was on me instead. Later that night, I sat and watched as she tossed outfits into the designer suitcase I'd bought her for our anniversary. That's when something in me snapped. If she wanted to play dirty, then I was going to show her just how dirty this game could get. She thought she was leaving behind some broken man who'd be crying at the door. She had no idea what I was about to unleash. I didn't sleep that night. She dozed off like nothing had happened, probably dreaming of beaches and fruity drinks with Jared flexing in the sun. Meanwhile, I laid there wide awake, staring at the ceiling, already putting together my next move. She had no clue that the storm she thought she'd avoided was forming right beside her. At 5:15 a.m., her alarm went off. She jumped out of bed like a kid on Christmas morning, humming some tune as she made her way to the bathroom. I kept my eyes mostly shut, pretending to be asleep while I watched her put on makeup like she was heading to a magazine shoot. "Logan," she whispered, nudging me gently. "I'm leaving for the airport in an hour. Kids' schedules are on the fridge." I grunted and rolled over, still playing the part of the half-asleep husband. What she didn't catch was the faint grin spreading across my face. Half an hour later, I heard the front door slam, then the sound of a car pulling away. Uber, probably. That was my cue. First thing I did was call my lawyer, Heather Grant. "Heather, it's Logan. I need you in the office today. This is serious." "Logan, It's not even 6 yet, she groaned. But I could already hear her moving, throwing on clothes or grabbing her keys. My wife just took off to Puerto Vallarta with her trainer. She torched my passport to stop me from following. I need to make sure the kids and I are protected. There was a pause on the line. Oh my God, Logan. I'll be there by 7:15, she said finally. Bring everything. Next, I called my business partner, Sean Porter. He's been with me since Flowgrid was nothing more than a scribbled idea in my garage. Man, you sound rough, Sean said when he answered. Alyssa left me. Took off with her trainer. I told him straight up. You remember that deal we signed Monday? The $108 million one. Yeah. What about it? She doesn't know it happened. She still thinks we're broke. There was a long whistle on the other end. Dude, she picked the worst time to walk. I need to move fast, I said. We've got to get that money somewhere she can't touch. Set up shell companies, offshore accounts, whatever you've got in your bag of tricks. By 8 in the morning, the kids were up, rubbing their eyes and asking where their mom had gone. I flipped pancakes while trying to come up with something that wouldn't scare them. I told them she was off visiting an old friend for a few days. Chloe gave me a look like she knew something was off, but little Max didn't question a thing. Daddy, can we go to Dave and Buster's today? He asked, syrup dripping from his chin. You bet, buddy, I said with a smile, giving his messy hair a quick ruffle. We're gonna do all the fun stuff while Mommy's away. What I didn't mention was that Mommy might be coming back to a completely different situation, one she didn't expect. Heather was already knee-deep in legal paperwork to lock up our accounts and protect what was mine. Meanwhile, Sean was a machine, setting up shell companies like a guy on a mission. Alyssa thought she was waking up to paradise and a brand new chapter. What she didn't know was that the safety net she thought she had was gone. Her so-called fresh start? About to hit a wall. The woman who torched my passport, trying to clip my wings, was about to learn what it meant to lose control, this time for good. I wasn't the one in for a surprise anymore. By 9:10 a.m., Heather's office looked like a command center. Her conference table was buried in paperwork, 3 laptops were open, and her paralegal was scribbling notes at lightning speed. The prenup is airtight, Heather said as she slid the document my way. She doesn't get a cent from the business or the acquisition. What about the joint accounts? I asked. Already frozen, she replied without missing a beat. Sean moved the Flowgrid money into the LLC we set up this morning. She'll know something's wrong when her card gets denied at the resort. I leaned back in my chair, finally starting to feel a bit of satisfaction rise up. How long do you think it'll take her to notice? I asked. Oh, probably around the time she tries to pick up the check for dinner, Heather said with a sly grin. And speaking of dinner, I ran a background check on Jared. She flipped a page toward me. He's got 3 credit cards maxed out and owes the IRS 11 grand. I laughed. Perfect. A gold digger who ran off with another one. What about the house? I asked. That's a little more complicated, she said. It's in both your names, but with the money from the deal, you can buy her half out no problem. I'm already drafting the offer. My phone buzzed. A text from Alyssa lit up the screen. Having amazing time. Weather perfect. Love you. I turned the phone around so Heather could see it. She rolled her eyes. Classic cheater move, she said, trying to cover guilt with fake affection. By lunchtime, I was back home with the kids. We spent the whole afternoon at the park. Chloe pushed Max on the swings while I sat on a bench, trying to keep my thoughts from spiraling. Daddy, you seem happy today, Chloe said, sharp as ever for a 10-year-old. I'm just glad I get to hang out with my favorite people, I said, pulling her into a quick side hug. That evening, once the kids were tucked in and the house was quiet, I opened my laptop and started laying everything out. I took screenshots of Alyssa's social media pictures of her and Jared that I should have paid more attention to months ago. I dug through our bank statements and found charges from restaurants I'd never even heard of. Hotel bills from business trips that suddenly made a lot more sense. Sean called me around 10 that night. We're good, he said. Shell companies are in place. The money's locked down. She's not getting near it. How fast can we move on the house? I asked. Heather's filing the buyout paperwork tomorrow. With your cash, we can wrap it up in a week. I walked upstairs and stopped in the doorway of what used to be our bedroom. Her perfume still hung in the air, and her makeup was scattered across the dresser like the remains of a crime scene. By tomorrow, I'd have the locks changed. By the time she came back from her romantic escape, this place wouldn't be hers anymore. My phone rang. Unknown number, international. I let it go to voicemail. For minutes later, it rang again. Same number. This time, I picked up. Logan. Alyssa's voice cracked slightly. My card's not working. The hotel said it got declined. I sat down on the edge of the bed, letting the moment sink in. That's strange, sweetheart, I said casually. Maybe try calling the bank. I did, she said, frustration rising. They told me the account's frozen. Logan, what's going on? I stood up, walked over to the window, and stared out at the city lights glowing across the skyline. Sounds like you're learning what happens when you burn bridges, I said. The line went dead silent for a second. Logan, this isn't funny. I'm stranded down here. No, I said, keeping my tone calm. You made a choice. Now you get to live with it. Then I ended the call and shut off my phone. I sat in my office that night, the house quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner, and I couldn't help but think back to where this all began. It was 12 years ago, at a tech conference in Fort Worth. I was up on stage, pitching an early version of Flowgrid. She was there working PR for one of the sponsors. After my talk, she came right up to me, full of smiles and enthusiasm. That software could really change the game for small businesses, she said. Eyes lit up. Back then, she believed in what I was building. We used to stay up late, dreaming about the future. She'd help me fine-tune presentations, edit my pitch decks, even throw out ideas that ended up making it into the product. She was all in. So what changed? When did I go from being the guy with a vision to the roadblock in her life? I think it started about 3 years ago, right around the time her friend Lily married that slick investment banker. Somewhere along the way, our simple life stopped being enough for her. The cozy little house we saved up for suddenly felt too small. My beat-up car that ran just fine? Embarrassing. The work clothes I got from Target? Apparently not professional enough anymore. She started dropping little comments, never outright complaints, just comparisons. Lily's husband just got her a brand new Audi. Lily's fiancé whisked her off to Umbria. And then, why can't you dress more like Ethan's dad? I figured I could fix it by working harder. More late nights coding, more back-to-back meetings with clients, more features, more growth, just more of everything. But no matter how much I did, it was never enough. The bar kept moving. Every time I hit one milestone, she moved the goalposts. Until I finally hit the jackpot. $108 million. That's when it hit me. The issue had never been about money or ambition. It was loyalty or the lack of it. My laptop dinged with an email from Heather. The house buyout documents were ready to go. I signed them electronically and hit send. Just like that, the house was mine. Officially. Another alert popped up. Sean had sent me security footage from Flowgrid's office garage. There she was, Alyssa, meeting Jared in the parking lot. 5 months ago. I remember that day. She told me she was having lunch with her sister. I saved the video to a folder I now had labeled evidence. That folder was getting thick. At this point, the only thing I really cared about was the kids. Chloe had been different lately, more thoughtful, more careful with her words. She could feel the change in the air. Max was too little to understand, but even he had been extra clingy lately, like he knew something was off. They deserved better than a home full of fake smiles and quiet tension. They deserved a dad who wasn't always walking on eggshells or second-guessing his own worth. They needed to see what real strength looked like, not shouting, not anger, but calm, deliberate protection. I shut the laptop and went upstairs. Tomorrow was a new start. No more shrinking myself to keep the peace. No more pretending like Alyssa's behavior was normal. She thought burning my passport would trap me. Truth is, it set me free. For days later, she finally showed up back in San Antonio. I was in my office when I heard an Uber pull up outside. Pulled up the security cam on my phone and watched her drag her suitcase up the walkway, sweaty, tired, and looking like the vacation had aged her 10 years. She tried her key at the front door. Didn't work. Then the keypad. Also no luck. I'd changed it 2 days ago. Logan, she shouted, banging on the door. Open this door right now. I didn't move. The kids were at school, so I didn't have to shield them from the show happening on the porch. I know you're in there, she yelled again, her voice rising. This is my house too. Actually, it wasn't. Not anymore. Heather filed the final paperwork yesterday. It was mine. My phone started ringing. Her name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then she called again. And again. The third time, I answered. What do you want, Alyssa? Let me in. I live here. I walked over to the window and looked down. She was sitting on the steps, designer suitcase tipped over beside her like wreckage. She looked lost. You chose to leave, I said evenly. Actions have consequences. Logan, please. Jared, he left me at the airport. Said he couldn't pay for the hotel and flew back without me. I had to max out my credit card just to get home. For a second, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But it passed. That's rough, I said. Maybe call your sister. My sister thinks I'm a total fool, she muttered. Logan, I made a mistake. Okay? Can we please just talk? We tried talking, I said. You burned my passport and ran off with your personal trainer. I was confused, she said, voice cracking. I felt trapped. You were always working. I felt invisible. I sat back at my desk and glanced at the Flowgrid acquisition agreement on the screen. No, I said quietly. You felt invisible because you stopped showing up. You stopped supporting me. You stopped believing in what we were building together. Then you resented me for doing it without you. She snapped back, defensive now. What success? You run some tiny little software thing out of a spare bedroom. I smiled, just a little. She couldn't see it, but I smiled anyway. Ran. Past tense. What? Flowgrid was acquired Monday morning. 108 million. Closed deal. There was a pause, just silence, 40 seconds of disbelief through the line. You're lying, she whispered. Nope. The contracts are sitting right here if you want me to forward you a copy. I heard her start to cry. Logan, please. I didn't know. If I had known. If you had known, I said, you'd have stuck around for the money. But you didn't believe in me. Not when it mattered. I believe in you now, she said softly. Too late. Please let me come home, she said. This isn't your home anymore. I told her. I bought out your half. You'll get the paperwork from my lawyer tomorrow. Then I hung up. Through the security cam, I watched her sit on the front steps, head in her hands, sobbing. Part of me thought I'd feel victorious in that moment, like I'd finally won something. But really, I just felt hollow. This was the woman I'd loved for over a decade. She'd picked Jared over me, ran off to paradise, and now wanted back in, not because she missed the life we built, but because I had money. That told me everything I needed to know about who she truly was. A week later, I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown across from Jasmine Ortiz, a reporter from San Antonio Business Journal. She'd been hounding me for an interview ever since the acquisition went public. I finally said yes, needed the distraction. So, the timing of your wife's departure, she asked, tapping her pen against her notepad, was that purely coincidental? My personal life's private, I said, keeping my tone even. But I will say, big life changes have a way of showing people's true character. Jasmine wasn't just smart, she was prepared. Sources say Flowgrid's success came from your understanding of what small businesses really need. What do you think they need most right now? Authenticity, I said, no hesitation. Everyone's so obsessed with appearances these days. But real businesses? They're built on trust, on actually showing up and delivering. She nodded, scribbling something. Then, with a glance up, speaking of authenticity, there are some rumors about your wife's social media posts. I raised a hand. I'm not commenting on that. Still, the question stuck with me. After the interview, I pulled up her Instagram. It was still full of polished selfies and inspirational quotes about living your truth and following your heart. The hypocrisy stung. That afternoon, I went to Chloe's school for a parent-teacher conference. Ms. Whitaker, her fourth-grade teacher, had asked to meet in person. We sat in those tiny plastic chairs meant for 10-year-olds. Chloe's been different, Ms. Whitaker said carefully. More mature. Quieter. She's been helping Max a lot more lately. My wife and I are going through some changes, I said. I've been trying to keep things stable. She mentioned her mom was on vacation, Ms. Whitaker added, but seemed confused about when she'd be back. I nodded. We're going to talk about that this weekend. That evening, after dinner and homework, I sat the kids down in the living room. Where's Mommy really? Chloe asked, her big eyes already knowing more than she should. Mommy and we need some time apart, I said gently. She's staying somewhere else for a little while. Is it 'cause she's mad at you? Max asked as he climbed into my lap. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, I said, holding him close. But it's not about being mad. It's about making the best choices for the family. Are you and Mommy getting divorced? Chloe asked, voice soft and steady. I looked at her, my sharp, brave little girl. Maybe, sweetheart, I said. But I promise you, no matter what happens, nothing changes how much we both love you. That part's forever. Later that night, after they were asleep, I got on a call with Sean. We went over the Flowgrid transition plan. The acquiring company wanted me to stay on as a consultant, flexible hours, steady income. You sure you're okay stepping back? Sean asked. I've got more important things to focus on now, I said. The company will be fine. I hung up and wandered through the quiet house. Without Alyssa's constant drama or judgment, it felt peaceful, like I could breathe again. Then my phone buzzed. Alyssa, please can we talk? I'm staying at a motel. I have nowhere else to go. I stared at the screen for a long minute, then deleted the message. She chose Jared. She chose Puerto Vallarta. She chose to blow up our family. The fact that Jared bailed didn't suddenly make her a victim. Some bridges, once burned, aren't worth rebuilding. 7 weeks after her trip, she finally ambushed me at Chloe's soccer game, of all places. I was sitting on the sidelines, cheering Chloe on, when she walked up with a guy in a slick suit trailing behind her. Logan, we need to talk, she said, settling beside me without even asking. About what? I kept my eyes on the field. Chloe was dribbling toward the goal. About us. Our marriage. Another chance. The lawyer leaned in, young, polished, rehearsed. Mr. Reed, my client is willing to enter couples counseling and make substantial lifestyle changes. I finally looked at them. What kind of changes? I'll delete all my social media, Alyssa said quickly. I'll stop seeing Jared. I'll even get a job to prove I'm serious. I almost laughed. A job? Alyssa, you haven't worked in 6 years. I can learn. I can change, she said, her voice tightening. Right then, Chloe scored a goal. I stood and clapped, gave a loud cheer. When I sat down again, I turned to Alyssa, looked her square in the eye. You had 12 years to change, I said. Instead, you burned my passport and took off with another man. I made one mistake, she whispered. One. I said. For months, you were hiding something from me. You weren't honest. Money disappeared without a word. And somehow, I ended up feeling humiliated in front of our own children. Her lawyer shifted, leaned forward. Mr. Reed, her lawyer started, his voice smooth, perhaps we could explore a reconciliation agreement, with certain conditions. There's nothing to explore, I said flatly. The divorce papers will be filed Tuesday morning. Alyssa started to cry right there on the sidelines. Logan, please. I love you, she said, like the words might still carry weight. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. I stood up just as the game wrapped and Chloe came running toward me, grass-stained and grinning like she'd just won the World Cup. You don't love me, Alyssa, I said as I watched our daughter sprint toward us. You love the idea of a $108 million payout. There's a big difference. Daddy, Chloe called, beaming. Did you see my goal? I saw it, sweetheart, I said, scooping her into a hug. You crushed it. I held her tight for a second, then glanced back at Alyssa. This conversation's over. I walked away, Chloe's hand in mine. You're making a huge mistake. Alyssa called after me. No, I said without even turning around. I'm fixing one. That night, after the kids were asleep, I called Heather, my attorney, to confirm our Tuesday morning meeting. The prenup made the divorce pretty straightforward. And with Alyssa having basically abandoned the kids for her extended getaway, full custody was a lock. You sure about this? Heather asked. She sounds desperate to patch things up. She's not desperate for me, she's desperate for the money, I said. If I'd lost everything in a bad deal, she'd be the first in line to file. Fair point, she replied. I'll have everything ready. I hung up, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and stepped out onto the balcony. The San Antonio skyline was glowing in the night. Tomorrow, I'd start building something new for me, for the kids. No more eggshells. No more pretending Alyssa's manipulation was just passion. Chloe and Max deserved a home built on real strength, not the kind that shouts and throws things, but the kind that shows up every single day and puts them first. For months later, I was packing up my office at Flowgrid HQ. The acquisition was done. I decided to step back from the daily grind and focus on family and whatever came next. Sean walked in with a box of my stuff. Hard to believe it's over, he said. It's not over, I replied. It's just getting started. I picked up a framed photo of Chloe and Max from my desk. This had always been for them. So what's next for the great Logan Reed? I smiled. I'm thinking education tech. Something to help kids learn to code and think critically. Following in your mom's footsteps, Sean said with a knowing nod. She'd been a public school teacher who believed technology could transform education. She passed 4 years ago, but her philosophy stuck with me. She used to say the best teachers help students teach themselves, I said. I want to build something that honors that. That evening, I picked the kids up from their new after-school program. Alyssa had visitation rights, but in 3 months, she'd only used them 3 times. Apparently, playing mom online was easier than actually showing up in real life. Dad, can we get pizza tonight? Max asked from his car seat. You read my mind, I said. Extra cheese. And pepperoni, Chloe chimed in from the front seat. At the pizza place, Chloe hit me with a surprise question. Dad, are you dating anyone? I nearly spit out my soda. Why do you ask? Kayla's mom got divorced, she said, and now she's dating this nice guy. He takes Kayla to baseball games. I raised an eyebrow. Are you asking because you want me to date someone? Or because you're worried I might? Chloe thought it over, then nodded seriously. I think you should date someone nice. Someone who likes your work and doesn't yell about money. Out of the mouths of babes. Well, I said, if I ever do meet someone, you and Max will be the first to meet her. Deal, Chloe said, reaching over for a handshake. Deal, I echoed, sealing it. That night, after they were tucked in and snoring, I opened my laptop. I started roughing out ideas for the education platform. Something real, not just flashy graphics and buzzwords. Interactive, problem-solving based, useful. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Logan, this is Jared. I need to talk to you about Alyssa. She's been reaching out nonstop. I think she might be going through a really tough time. I stared at the screen for a few long seconds. Then I hit delete. Her mental health wasn't my responsibility anymore. She made her choice. She left us. She burned her bridges. I closed the laptop and wandered through the house. Everything felt different now. Still. Steady. Honest. No more pretending. No more letting someone chip away at my dignity just to keep the peace. The kids were doing well. I had the time, the means, and the drive to build something better for all of us. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I was looking forward. Really looking forward. Alyssa thought burning my passport would keep me grounded. But what she didn't realize was that it just set me free. Exactly 1 year after Alyssa torched my passport, I found myself on stage at a tech conference in Phoenix, presenting Code Foundry, my new education platform. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was finally taking those business trips she tried so hard to block. And this time, I was doing it on my terms. Learning to code should feel like an adventure, not a lecture. I told the room full of educators, tech folks, and investors. Kids don't need more rules. They need room to explore. After the talk, while I was grabbing a cup of coffee in the networking area, a woman came up to me. She had sharp eyes, a calm energy, and a smile that felt real. Logan Reed, she said, extending a hand. I'm Samantha Vega. I run coding camps for underserved kids all over Arizona. Your platform? It could change the game for us. We started talking and didn't stop for an hour. Education, equity, technology, giving kids real tools to shape their futures. Samantha got it. She didn't just nod politely, she leaned in. She wasn't selling anything. She was just as passionate about this as I was. As the conference wound down, I found myself asking, would you want to grab dinner? I'd love to hear more about what you're doing. I'd like that, she said, just like that. That evening, over steaks and local beer at a low-key place off 15th Street, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Samantha didn't care about headlines or dollar signs. She asked thoughtful questions about Code Foundry and told stories about her students that reminded me why I started this journey in the first place. What made you start the camps? I asked. My brother, she said, smiling a little. He was a genius with computers but couldn't afford college. He taught himself everything with library books and dial-up internet. I want to make it easier for the next kid like him. The next morning, I flew back to San Antonio with Samantha's card in my pocket and a buzz in my chest I hadn't felt since the early days of Flowgrid. The moment I walked in the door, Chloe picked up on it. Dad, you look different, she said, squinting at me like a scientist inspecting a new specimen. Happy different. I chuckled. Met someone interesting. She's a teacher. Runs coding camps. Is she nice? Max piped up from the couch, half covered in Legos. She's very nice, I said. And she gets what I'm trying to build. 4 months later, Samantha came to San Antonio to help launch a pilot program for Code Foundry. The kids loved her. She made learning feel like play, and she talked to them like they were capable, not like they needed to be managed. She's perfect for you, Dad, Chloe whispered as we watched Samantha crouch next to Max, helping him debug his first program. She's not loud or fake. That night, after the kids were asleep, Samantha and I sat out on the back porch, just talking. No big agenda. Just the quiet hum of crickets and a sky full of stars. You know what I like most about you? She asked, tilting her head back. What's that? You build things that matter. Your ex never saw that, did she? I looked at her. How'd you know about Alyssa? Google, she admitted with a shrug. But also, it's how you talk about your work. Like you're proud of it, but almost surprised someone else values it. I reached for her hand. I'm not surprised anymore. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt like I was home. 2 years after that first meeting, I stood in the backyard of our new place in the hills outside San Antonio. Chloe was showing Max how to program a little robot they'd built together, and Samantha was on the deck beside me, grading assignments from her latest coding class. Hard to believe where we started, she said, glancing up. You mean the burned passport and cheating wife part? I smirked. I mean 2 people who believed in building something real. Our wedding had been simple, just family and a few close friends. Chloe stood by me as my best person. Max, serious as ever, handled the ring like a tiny Secret Service agent. Samantha's brother officiated. He talked about how the strongest partnerships come from shared values, not grand gestures. Alyssa, unsurprisingly, hadn't been there. She'd moved to Houston after the divorce and was working at a dental office. Jared had vanished. Rumor was he went back to Oregon after things fizzled in Costa Rica. Heather told me Alyssa's online following had dwindled to a few hundred folks, mostly old friends and cousins who didn't know the full story. Dad, come see this. Chloe called out from the yard. She'd programmed their robot to navigate a little obstacle course, using sensors and some basic AI logic. That's incredible, sweetheart, I said, genuinely impressed. She was only 12, but she already thought like an engineer. Samantha helped with the sensor array, she said proudly. Code Foundry had taken off. Over 220 schools had adopted the platform. Thousands of kids were learning through interactive stories and challenges. Samantha's camps expanded into 4 states, supported partly by the FlowGrid money. And every bit of it felt earned. That night, once the kids were asleep, Samantha and I sat in my office, sketching out our next big idea, a nonprofit offering free coding education to rural communities. Your mom would be proud, she said softly, looking at the photo of my mother on my desk. She'd love you, I replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. She used to say, the best people are the ones who make others better. My phone buzzed. It was Sean. New acquisition offer came in for Code Foundry. Want to hear the number? I showed Samantha the text. She shrugged with a small grin. Your call. But remember what happened the last time you got rich? I typed my reply. Not interested. This one's not for sale. Some things weren't meant to be cashed out. Like peace. Like purpose. Like a wife who sees your dreams and builds them with you, not burns them down. Like having kids who looked up to me, not because I could buy them things, but because I showed them what real strength looked like. Like building something that might still be helping children long after I'm gone. That kind of legacy doesn't come with a price tag. Alyssa thought torching my passport would trap me, like it would clip my wings and force me to stay small. But in doing that, she accidentally pushed me to see how far I could actually go. And not just in business or bank accounts. I'm talking real growth, the kind that changes how you carry yourself, how you love, how you live. She tried to hold me down, but all she really did was reveal who I wasn't meant to be and clear the way for who I was. The man she thought she could manipulate into submission? He's long gone. The guy standing in his place now. This version of me, she never would have been able to hold on to. Not because I'm bitter, just because she never valued the things that mattered most. She said she wanted a strong partner, a meaningful life, a family that came first. But the truth is, she only liked the image of that, never the effort it took to maintain it. In the end, real justice didn't look like revenge. It looked like growth. It looked like peace. It looked like becoming exactly who I was always meant to be, no matter who tried to stand in the way.